Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Becoming Bob. I'm Alex, and thanks for joining me. Today I'll be painting along with Bob with episode 4 of The Joy of Painting, which you can see right here. As you can see, I'm using a vertical canvas this time, a little different from my previous videos, which, if you haven't seen the previous one, check it out here. Well, I'm excited to get going, so let's get painting.
Okay, so in this episode, as you can see, I'm using a very limited palette. I've only got blue, brown, white, and a little permanent red there. And primarily I'll just be working with the white, blue, and the brown. I pre-mixed that gray color because Bob already had his pre-mixed in the episode. I'm glad I did. It took me a little while to get the color just right. You can see I'm just kind of messing some around up there in the clouds, making a nice cloudy winter sky. The canvas was, of course, covered with liquid white before I got started here. And the paint's sliding around really nice for me. Got a few hairs. Switching out to my fan brush there, getting just a little bit of the red to mix it in. The light pink color. You can see me going there for the liquid white. Actually had it on hand this time, and it really helped. Going in to put the highlights in the clouds now. Just getting those areas where the sun's hitting them. And then going and fluffing them out a little bit with the 2-inch brush. I tried to move it around in a bunch of different directions to simulate all the different directions of the wind up there. Just going in with some more highlights. Now in this painting I am doing it on a vertical canvas, as you can see, and that was a little bit different. You can kind of see I didn't bring my sky down as far as I would have liked, but just wasn't used to having that tall of a canvas to work with. Now I've got a second fan brush out there. Bob had 2 fan brushes that he was alternating between. A light one and a dark one. Picked up some of that gray color and mixed in a little bit more of the blue and the brown to darken it up. And that's really what this painting was about, was working with these tones. Go in and blend it in with the 2-inch. Back to my white brush. putting in different layers like this in the clouds really adds a lot of depth to the sky. It pushes the back clouds back really far and just makes it seem that much bigger. Kind of blending it all together there. Yeah, I'm just kind of going back and forth with these two brushes for a while. While I do that, I'll give a shout out to my dad, Glenn. He's been an inspiration for my whole life. He's a real creative guy himself, and his support has really meant a lot to me over the years. So Dad, thanks a lot.
You can hear my neighbors across the street were very excited that it was spring and warm enough for them to finally get their motorcycles out. I wouldn't have recorded if I could have avoided it, but this was really my only chance to get this filmed. So I had to suffer through it, and it doesn't last too long into the video.
After Bob finished the sky, he kind of blended it like this, starting from the middle of the top and radiating outward to kind of make sun rays kind of coming through the clouds. I tried to do it, but mine didn't turn out 100% straight, and so it didn't look exactly the same from an effect. Got my knife, putting in a distant mountain there. Really trying to work that paint into the canvas. Going in and trying to blend it in some. Now, one of the issues I actually did kind of run into now that I had the liquid white like I was supposed to was that the paint was a lot softer than it's been when I've been working with it, and there were times where I was a little heavy-handed with my blending. You really have to go with just 3 hairs in an air, like Bob says. And some snow and highlights on my mountains. Just kind of misting those in, tapping it in, pushing it into the background. Now to further push it into the background, I'm going to put some clouds in the foreground here. Just kind of wrapping around the mountain. And blending those clouds in. I'll mix it up some more. Darker gray. Pulling up the knife there. And really dropping in some big mountains now. Trying to get some nice peaks on there that look natural. I'm just filling in as fast as I can. Trying to work that paint in. I'm going back in and blending. Yeah, you can see what I was saying about it being almost too easy to blend there. I almost blended that whole peak away. Trying to make a shadow color now that I'm putting in at the bottom. Will serve as kind of a darker base for putting snow on top of here in just a little bit. And now it's time to lay in some highlights and snow on the big mountain. You really have to balance the amount of pressure you put on the knife when you're doing this. You've got to float it across the surface of the canvas, but you do have to press enough to leave some paint. When you do it right, you get a nice breaking effect, and it lets the dark parts through and creates a really natural look. Tapping in those highlights now to create a misty effect. I'm going in with the fan brush and making a lighter gray color and a few pine trees. Make it a little darker there. But at the same time, I'm going to add some liquid white so that it'll stick better to the thicker paint and back. Mix it very evenly there on the brush, so I'm going back in to kind of reload.
I tried a little different microphone location for this episode. I've got it mounted on the tripod with one of the cameras Not sure I like this location, so I'll probably keep trying other ones.
Alright, now I'm going back in with a 2-inch brush. Actually kind of lay in some snowy hills. Kind of drifting the snow across there over the darker shadowy bits, but still allowing that to come through. Just trying to create the lay of the land. Go back in with my dark fan brush. Put in some bigger trees now. A little bit closer. A little darker and a little bit more detail. And give that one a friend. And a third one. I still feel like I'm having trouble making them a little bit too wide and squat where I'm trying to make them taller. But that'll come with time as I learn more control over the fan brush. Going in with my 1-inch brush now. Mixing up some snowy white highlights. Oh, scratch that. Going back in with the 2-inch brush to kind of mist everything out a little bit. Now going back in with my 1-inch brush. Let's put in some snowy little shrubs. I tried to focus on leaving a little bit more dark space and just lightly touching the canvas, and I feel like I got a little bit better effect than I have on some of my shrubs in the past. Now with the knife, just cutting a few sticks and twigs, trying to be deliberate where I'm putting them and create individual plants. Now a few more trees, make them a little bit darker this time. Getting a little bit of that liquid white to make it a softer paint. And I'm going to make these even bigger and closer. Few hairs off of there. Trying to fill in that little grove. Making the trees and the dark spaces at the bottom. Now trying to put in a little tree up in front. Making it darker than the ones in back. going to go in with some titanium white and liquid white mixed together on the knife. And just laying the highlight parts on the snow. Give that slope a little bit more definition. Have another slope coming in from the other side. Bringing it across the other slope so that it appears more in the foreground. Didn't want to lose that slope in the back too much. I apologize for my arm being in the way here. This was the better of the two angles. And now back in with the 1-inch highlight brush. And some more shrubs. Trying to keep the shrubs as individual shrubs and not just have a big massive shrub at the base of the trees. Cut in a few more sticks and twigs. And now, to clear out a space for my first cabin. Clearing it out like this with the knife both kind of gives me a rough idea of where the cabin's going to go, and also clears some paint off to make it a lot easier for the cabin's paint to stick. Cutting it in, cleaning off the knife. Now picking up some straight brown. And some straight white. Some snow on the roof. Try and put some on the other side. At this point, I was not feeling too good about how this cabin was going to turn out. Once I started to get some more brown on there and see the shape really starting to form, I started to feel a lot better about it. Trying to get the perspective angles right too. It's kind of a challenge. Adding some white now to give the wood a little bit more character. And clearing out a space in the front for a door. Adding a little brown to really highlight it. Cut in a few boards, give it a little bit more detail. Line the roof a little bit more. And now just getting that 1-inch highlighter again to put a few shrubs in front of the cabin there and push it back into the painting. Now going back into the brown with the knife. Put in some fence posts coming off from the side of the cabin. And I'm making them progressively smaller as they go off over the hill. I'm just using the knife to cut in some rusty old wire. Just an old abandoned cabin up there in the mountains. I'm just picking up some more white to go back in and add more highlights to my snow. It's really playing the star in the foreground there. I really wanted to make the slopes even. Trying to pick up a little bit of brown here on the knife so that when I cut in some sticks, they would show up a little bit more. I didn't get very much paint, so I don't think it really did much. With that, that's pretty much a finished painting. So, get my script liner brush. Thin out some permanent red with a little bit of paint thinner there. And draw it nice and sharp. Ahead and sign this one as finished. Really had to thin it out though to get it on with all that snow paint there. Thanks for watching episode 4 of Becoming Bob. I'm Alex. If you like what I'm doing here, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day.